Welcome to the many interpretations of Ouranosaurus. Ouranosaurus was an iguanodontian that lived in the early Cretaceous of what is now Africa, more specifically in places like Niger and Cameroon. It is a very cool dinosaur that does not show up too frequently, despite the fact that it's overall just very cool looking. I won't waste your time anymore. Let's just get right into the media depictions. So our first depiction comes from Super Croc, released in 2001. This was a documentary that focused on Sarcosuchus specifically, and how it would hunt dinosaurs and things like that. The poor unfortunate victim that it hunted was Ouranosaurus. We get to see these three different Ouranosaurs just kind of like taking a drink when one of them gets pulled into the water. The models are, of course, not the greatest, but you can tell that this documentary didn't exactly have the budget for incredibly huge, really good looking models. It doesn't look bad given what it's meant to be. It's meant to just provide some extra context, give you an extra visual for what they're talking about. In terms of its accuracy, it's not too far off. This is pretty much what most modern day Ouranosaurus depictions would look like. It is pretty thin though. Some more modern day reconstructions would probably put some more meat on those bones. But it does have the sort of sail. It has a very elongated skull, which is something that Ouranosaurus did have. It was also very thin, which is present here. So yeah, it's not a bad start, not at all. Next up is Planet Dinosaur. This is probably the most famous Ouranosaurus out there. I'm sure that most people know about Ouranosaurus because of a documentary like this. And this is where we have one of the biggest misconceptions pop up. We see Ouranosaurus living alongside Spinosaurus. Because of that, many folks believed that these two animals existed together, but they did not. Ouranosaurus actually predates Spinosaurus. It lived around 15 or 16 million years before Spinosaurus ever showed up. So those two animals did not exist together. Obviously, they lived in the same general area. Of course, they both lived on the continent of Africa, but they did not exist with one another. Neither did Sarcosuchus. I think Sarcosuchus makes an appearance in this documentary too, but Sarcosuchus didn't live with Spinosaurus either. It did live with Ouranosaurus, and so it likely could have hunted Ouranosaurus from time to time, like the previous documentary showed. That aside, that's the biggest difference. This design is also pretty good as well. It's pretty thin, you can see their ribs and stuff like that. They could be hungry, who knows? Their whole body shape looks pretty dang good. You can see that they have the sail. A sail is something that Ouranosaurus did have, much like Spinosaurus. It did have tall neural spines that extended from the vertebrae, and they would have formed a sort of sail that, yes, started basically all the way from the shoulders and went all the way down the tail, which gives Ouranosaurus a very cool looking silhouette. And this is why I think it needs to show up in more media, because how cool is something like that? The colors on this fella are also really interesting. They're complementary colors. You have purple and yellow, which means, basically those are two colors that go together. It has the elongated snout with a beak at the end. The snout is a little bit there's some talks that it actually had more soft tissue on top of the snout that led all the way up to the eyes than what's presented here, but this is really not a bad portrayal either. They also do have very classic iguanodontian hands with a sort of thumb spike. I believe you can see that in a few different shots. A thumb spike is something that Ouranosaurus did also have. So yeah, that's a very good depiction right there. Ouranosaurus does make an appearance in the Land Before Time franchise. It looks like this fella right here. Very classic and actually really good overall. It literally captures everything that we have talked about thus far. Elongated skull. The whole skeletal structure is there. It's got the sail. The sail is a nice kind of blue coloration, which is in nice contrast to the more green body. And I do remember that it shows up in a pretty messed up scene overall. I like it though. This is a very good one. And here it is in Dinosaur King. There's really not much else I can add to this. It is a bit thin in the neck and of course a bit shrink wrapped, but that's been very common with Dinosaur King in general. Very cool colors though. I really like the blend of the two different types of colors that are going on right here. And the sail shape also looks really good. So yet another good one to add to my collection. We also do have the Jurassic franchise. In Camp Cretaceous, Ouranosaurus makes a very cool appearance. I don't remember the exact context of this scene. I don't know why exactly the Ouranosaurs were attacking the campers. They might have been stressed out from the Scorpius Rex. I can't quite remember. But I do like that we get to see herbivores be the aggressors in this scene. That's always something that's very cool to see because it's something that we don't see too frequently in media depictions. Most of the time, herbivorous animals are portrayed as peaceful giants, essentially. And I liked that the Ouranosaurs were not. Their designs are also really good. I really dig these. I love the colors, first and foremost, especially in this render right here. You can really see the blues and greens that are on the face. That looks really cool. It has a beak, an elongated skull that's pretty thin, and it looks like it has a little bit of extra soft tissue on the nose. It does have some meat on its bones, like its neck is not too terribly thin, and it does have a sail. Also, it does have some sort of like iguanodontian style hands, and also they're kind of like moving around mostly like quadrupedally, but I think that they can go to a bipedal stance every once in a while. Ouranosaurus is thought to be a dinosaur that can either go, quadrupedal or bipedal, which means it can either walk on all fours or walk on two legs. I don't think that there's really any reason to think it was an obligate to either of those stances. So if we have it like switch back and forth between those, that's not really too crazy of a thought. But no, I really like this one. This one's very cool. I really dig it. We also do have some Jurassic franchise video games like Jurassic Park 3 Park Builder. Most of the traits that we've talked about are present here, and it also has a really cool orange coloration. Jurassic Park Operation Genesis, again, most of the things that we've been talking about, the sail, the elongated skull, and it also has like really cool colors. So far, we've been seeing some very cool coloration with Ouranosaurus, and I'm really digging it. Jurassic Park Builder is a game that I didn't even know had Ouranosaurus. I definitely don't remember it being there, but here's what it looks like as a baby. That is all. And here's what the adult looks like. This is probably the largest departure from like most of the other depictions that we've seen. It does not really have that much of a pronounced sail. Like, it's very reduced. You could tell that it kind of has tall, narrow spines, but they're kind of portrayed as like a small hump rather than an actual sail. Oh, and I should also bring that part up. There has been speculation in the past that Ouranosaurus actually had a hump instead of a sail, but nowadays the consensus leans more towards it having a sail because the neural spines don't have like the proper attachment points for extra muscles, so it likely wasn't a hump in life. But yeah, this one's very different. The skull shape is so different. It reminds me a little bit more of like, I don't know, maybe more of like a basal sauropodomorph or something like that, or maybe even an ornithomimid. This is one of the most different depictions. It's certainly interesting. Jurassic World Alive has this happy fellow right here. It is bipedal, which is something that is not outside of the realm of possibility for Ouranosaurus. Also digging these colors. These colors are really sick, especially in this render right here. I love like this sort of bright pinks and reds that it has on its sail. Its sail was probably mostly used as a display structure. The elongated skull is here, and yeah, everything else seems to look pretty dang good if you ask me. There's also Jurassic World Evolution 2. It did not make the cut for Jurassic World Evolution 3, and that makes me quite sad because I kind of like Frontier's design. Now, they actually portrayed the sail more like a hump, as I just mentioned before. It likely wasn't a hump in life. It doesn't seem like it was properly set up for something like that. But this is still very unique of a design, and I just like how chunky they are. It's not too entirely accurate, but it's still pretty cool and interesting to see. I especially love their skulls. I love how much like soft tissue or how much of a sheath it has on the nasal portion of its skull. It just looks sick. I really like it. It's kind of a classic in my eyes. Prior Extinction also has a really nice looking Ouranosaurus. No, where's your hat? But no, I really, really, really like this one. It looks like it is able to switch from bipedal to quadrupedal locomotion. The colors that we can see, all of the patterns that are present for all of the different models or all of the different skins, rather, they look really good. The whole skeletal structure, the skeletal anatomy seems to match up. The sail is really good, the sail shape. That's something that most of these depictions have been nailing, is that the sail shape, the way it kind of like arches towards the shoulders and then kind of like dips down a little bit, then picks back up and then continues down the rest of the tail. That most of these have been pretty consistent with that, and I think that they all look gorgeous. So yeah, this is a very, very good depiction, and I really do like it. I think I've liked most of the depictions on this list so far. Now we have Prehistoric Kingdom. Here they are. You get 3 different models that you get to sink your teeth into, basically, unless you don't eat Ouranosaurus, of course. They all look really good. They have all of those traits. Like, I love the way that the skull looks, very elongated, has the beak at the end. I love the way that the sail looks, of course. The hands look really good as well. You can get a pretty good close look at them right there. You can see that thumb claw right where my cursor is. The coloration on this one is really sick. I love the way that the schnoz looks. And the coloration right here is also pretty interesting. You got some nice blues with some greens. Kind of looks iridescent in a way. Though I don't think it's quite meant to be iridescent, but it's still very, very cool. Really cool patterns as well. Yeah, they're all really, really good, and we can see them walk around real quick. And they did opt to completely have them as, whoa. They did opt to have them completely bipedal instead of, switching to quadrupedal. Both answers are pretty much correct in terms of the stance of they are really running. They might be running from the theropods that I have walking around like that Carcharodontosaurus, but they are moving. Look at it go. Look at it go. Very nice animations, though. Am I right? Like, look at that. Oh, no, you're running straight for... Oh. Look at that. We get to see more of the threat displays in full use. Run! It's so interesting. But yeah, no, these are the Ouranosaurus models. I love them. They're so good. Next up is Paleopines. This one also still does have all of the things that we've talked about. It kind of assumes more of a quadrupedal stance. It does have the sail, and you know, it has all of the traits that you'd expect from an Ouranosaurus, but it's just stylized to fit the game, which I think is always fun. So I like them. I think that there's a lot of really cool colors here, and I love the designs in the sail. An upcoming dinosaur game known as Echoes of Extinction has been showcasing their awesome Ouranosaurus model, and I really dig this one. I love how much meat is on its bones, like it's really thick in the neck. And everything else matches up very, very well. I love the way that the legs look. I love the way that the sail looks, especially with some of the colors that we've seen. And I love the way that the skull looks. Really not much else I can say. You know, it also has like kind of, you know, it also does have its hands with its extra thumb claw. It looks glorious. I love it. I can't wait to see more of this project, and I can't wait until it releases because that's going to be really cool. The additional creatures mod for Ark also has this fella right here. Not bad, really. Actually, it's downright good. It applies all of the same techniques that we have talked about over and over again, and I don't have much else to say. Looks very good. So yeah, those were some of the biggest Ouranosaurus depictions in media. Very, very cool dinosaur. You know, again, one that is often thought to live with Spinosaurus, but of course it did not live with Spinosaurus. It, you know, went extinct before Spinosaurus ever showed up. But nonetheless, still a very unique dinosaur. It is a hadrosauriform, but it's not quite a hadrosaur. And it's got a few traits that are a little bit different from like other iguanodontians, which are also hadrosauriforms, like the elongated snout and a snout that's a little bit more thin. So it's got traits that are a little bit closer to hadrosaurs, but it's not actually a true hadrosaur itself. Just overall very fascinating stuff. And I'd love to see more of Ouranosaurus in the future, and hopefully we do, because it's a dinosaur that I think definitely deserves more representation in media. But that's pretty much all I have for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have an awesome day.